Hey guys, it's Becky and today I am doing the Doctor Who tag. Fun fact about me is that I absolutely adore Doctor Who, as proven here. And the new season with Peter Capaldi premieres this next week, so I thought it was time to do the Doctor Who book tag. This tag was created by Samantha over at Novels to Nonsense, as well as Sabrina from Sabrina Handle, and I was tagged by Sabrina, so thank you. I will leave both of their links down below, so you should go check them out. And I'm going to get started now, so allons-y. There are 13 questions, and each of the questions pertain to a specific doctor, which I have right here. Question 1, William Hartnell. Favorite first book in a series. I'm actually not sure if this is 100% true because I love every book in the series. I'm pretty sure this one's my favorite. It's the one I've read the most, but I do just absolutely adore the entire series, and that is Delirium by Lauren Oliver. Question number 2, Patrick Troughton. Your favorite sequel in a series. I think the best sequel to any book I have ever read is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, the second book in the Throne of Glass series. This book completely blew my mind. The first book was so good, but this one was phenomenal. It is quite possibly one of my favorite books of all time, and definitely my favorite fantasy book. Question number 3, John Pertwee. Favorite trilogy. At this point, I think I've talked about this series in more videos than I have not talked about it. The Shatter Me trilogy by Tahar Mafi with the bind up of the 2 novellas. I just really love this series. I just really love Kenji, and I just really love Warner. Question number 4, Tom Baker, a colorful book cover. I'm going to cheat a little bit with this one because looking through my shelves, I really couldn't find many books that had colorful covers, so I'm actually going to be doing a series, and that is the Anne of Green Gables series by Ellen Montgomery. The spines are really colorful. Does that count? It's gonna count. These two are fairly colorful. Question 5, Peter Davison, a book with sports involved. Okay, this book centered around a male protagonist who used to play sports. So I'm just going to count that because I really don't have many sporty books. And that is The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider. Ezra, the main character, used to play tennis. Question number 6, Colin Baker, a book with a dark and powerful villain. This question is super easy for me because my favorite villain of all time is in this series, and that is the Shadow and Bone, or the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. The villain in this trilogy made me cry, so this one definitely wins. Question number 7, Sylvester McCoy, favorite adult or dark novel if you haven't read many adult books. For that, I am going with One Day by David Nichols. It's not a dark book at all, it's an adult book, and also this is the first book I ever read with a Doctor Who reference in it, so there's that fits. Question 8, Paul McGann, favorite romance book. I don't really read too many strictly romance books, and I don't even classify these as strictly romance. There's a lot more of a story in there than just that, but I'm going with Just One Day as well as Just One Year by Gail Forman. I did like this one a little bit more than the sequel, partially because it had been about a year since I read this when I read the sequel, so I had forgotten quite a few people and family members and things like that, but definitely this one I fell in love with the story, the places, and the characters, and I thought this book was just wonderful. Question 9, John Hurt, a book you wish you could forget you read. For me, that is The Infinite Moment of Us by Lauren Miracle. I read that either earlier this year or late last year, or I tried to read it anyway. I ended up reading less than half of it, I think, and I absolutely hated that book. I did not see the purpose of it at all, and I ended up getting rid of it. Question number 10, Christopher Eccleston, a book that made you pick up a series or a genre again. Alright, with this one, I'm cheating a little bit because it wasn't necessarily that I had put down the genre, it was just that I hadn't really read much from that genre before I read this book, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Before I read this book, I had read only one other fantasy series that I can remember, and that's the Graceling series by Kristen Cashore. And then after I read this one, I started reading a lot more fantasy, and now it is pretty much my favorite genre at this point. Question 11, David Tennant, your favorite super hyped book. Right, for this, I'm not really sure how hyped it was. I did hear quite a bit of buzz about it, but it wasn't like the most super hyped book I've ever heard about, like Fault in Our Stars, The Fifth Wave, stuff like that, but I was drawn to it every time I went to the store. And again, I did hear quite a bit of buzz about it, and that is These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. Going into this book, I didn't expect anything that actually happened in this book. The things that happened like completely blew my mind with some of the sci-fi elements and things like that. And this book actually gave me a nightmare. So I think this is the only book that's ever done that. So going with this one. Okay, question 12, Matt Smith, favorite middle grade book. Again, this book is probably one of my favorite books of all time. I've actually been really wanting to reread it lately. And that is The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart, along with the rest of the series. This is probably one of my most read books as well. I just absolutely adore this book. I think everyone should read it, so get on that. Question 13, which I do not have a card for, but Peter Capaldi, most anticipated releases. I'm sure I'm only really supposed to be listing one here, but I cannot do that, so I'm going to list a few. Number 1, I'm going to have to go with Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, the third book in the Throne of Glass series. After the way Crown of Midnight left off, I need that book in my possession. Another one I am super psyched for is 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray, which is described as a Cloud Atlas meets Orphan Black, so it just sounds freaking amazing. And it deals with traveling in different dimensions, and I don't think I've ever read anything like that, so I just really want it right now. And the cover is gorgeous, so that's a bonus. Notable mention to The Retribution of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin, This Shattered World by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, The Young Elites by Marie Lu, as well as Winter by Marissa Meyer and Ferris. The Dregs, which is a 2-book series told in the same world as the Grisha trilogy by Lee Bardugo, and P.S. I Still Love You, which is the sequel to All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. I want them all so bad. Alright guys, so that is the Doctor Who book tag. I'm not going to tag anyone because I don't know who watches the show and who doesn't, but if you do this tag because I want to see it, because I love Doctor Who and I love books, so it just works. I will see you next time. Goodbye! The silence, his head pops off. Oops. For the record, I didn't buy these by themselves. They came with the 50th anniversary DVD, I think. But I still love them. Look at these. I have a mini TARDIS too. You wanna see it? TARDISception.